the greatest common divisor, GCD, and the least common multiple, LCM. Find the GCD and the LCM of the following pair of natural numbers, 44 and 40. To find the GCD and LCM, we want to start the same way. We're going to start by factoring 44 and 40 into the set of prime numbers. So I have 44, and I'm going to create a factor tree. So I'll ask myself, what times what gives me 44? Well, 44 is divisible by 2, so I know that 2 times 22 is 44. Now 2 is a prime number, so I'll circle 2. 22 can be broken up as 2 times 11. 2 and 11 are prime factors, so I'll circle those. So the prime factorization of 44 is 2 times 2 times 11. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the number 40. So I need to ask myself, what times what will equal 40? Well, I know that 4 times 10 is 40, and then 4 is 2 times 2. And 2 is a prime factor, so I'll circle both 2's. 10 can be factored into 2 times 5. And 2 and 5 are prime factors, so I'll circle those. So the prime factorization of 40 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. Now we're going to find the GCD. And this is the greatest common divisor. To find the greatest common divisor, we're going to look at the factors of both numbers and list the factors that they have in common. We're also going to list the common number of times that each factor appears. So if we look at 44, I have 2 2's, and if I look at 40, I have 3 2's. So the common number of times that 2 occurs in both numbers is 2 times. So I'm going to write down 2 2's. Now we'll look at the next factor of 44. And the next factor is 11. 40 doesn't have an 11 in common, so I won't write down the number 11. Next, I'll look at the factor 5 in the number 40. 44 doesn't have the number 5 in common, so I'm not going to write that down. The only thing that both numbers have in common are 2 2's. So that tells me that the GCD is 2 times 2, which is 4. So the GCD is 4. Now I'm going to find the LCM, or the least common multiple. To find the least common multiple, I'm going to look at each number and its factors. And I'm going to write down the greatest number of times each factor occurs in either number. So I'll look at the number 44, and I have 2 times 2 times 11. If I look at the 2's, I have 2 2's in 44, and I have 3 2's in 40. So I want to write down the greatest number of times that 2 occurs in either factor. So this would be 3 times, because it appears 3 times in 40. So I'll write 2 down 3 times. Now I'm going to go back to 44 and look at the factor 11. Now I need to ask myself, what's the greatest number of times that 11 occurs in either factor? Well, 11 occurs once in 44, and it doesn't occur at all in 40. So the greatest number of times that 11 occurs is 1 time. So I'll write down an 11. Now that I've used all my factors in 44, I'm going to look at the factors in 40. So I already wrote down my 2's, so I'm going to go to the next factor, which is a 5. And the greatest number of times 5 occurs in either number is 1 time. So I'll write down a 5. Now the LCM is found by multiplying 2 times 2 times 2 times 11 times 5. When I multiply all of those numbers together, I get 440. So the LCM is 440. Assume that an airline's flights for Miami leave every 10 minutes and flights for Dallas leave every 12 minutes. If flights to Miami and Dallas have just departed, how many minutes will it be before this happens again? Here I'm given 2 times, and I'm asked to find the number of minutes that it will be until the flights for Miami and Dallas leave at the same time. Here we have 2 different times, 10 minutes and 12 minutes. We need to make them larger to have equal amounts. Since we're making these values larger, in order to find the equal amount, we're going to find the LCM. So we'll follow our process for finding the least common multiple. First, we need to factor 10 and 12 into the set of prime factors. 10 is 2 times 5. 2 and 5 are both prime factors, so we'll circle those. 12 is 6 times 2, and 6 can be broken into 3 times 2. So the prime factors are 2 times 2 times 3. Now I want to find the LCM. So I'm looking for the greatest number of times each factor occurs in either number. If I look at the factor 2, 2 occurs 1 time in the number 10, and 2 occurs 2 times in the number 12. So the greatest number of times that 2 occurs is 2 times. So this will be 2 times 2. Now I want to look at the factor 5. 5 occurs 1 time in 10, and it occurs 0 times in 12. So the greatest number of times 5 occurs is 1 time. Now that I looked at all the factors in 10, I'm going to look at the factors of 12. I already took care of the 2's, so the only thing that's left is the factor 3. 3 occurs 1 time in 12 and 0 times in 10. So the greatest number of times 3 occurs is 1 time. So I'll write down 1, 3. The LCM is found by multiplying 2 times 2 times 5 times 3. And when I multiply all of those numbers together, I get 60. So the LCM is 60. And this means that the flights will depart at the same time again after 60 minutes.